Horizon just want to see your reaction and is it a bird? Is it a plane? Oh no, it is a bird. It's bird tier list by the channel TierZoo. Yeah, this is the recent video, I guess 3 days ago, 2-3 days ago that he uploaded. Still trending at 49. That's just ridiculous. I mean, that's an achievement, isn't it? For something like this kind of, some of the creator videos like this. I don't think even oversimplified video stays that long. I don't think I've seen trending for 3 days of anything. I don't know. So yeah, TierZoo's video is trending 49, even at the third day, I guess. Yeah. So he went ballistic here. Look at that 23 minutes video. It's about comprehensive video on birds, I guess. So yeah, let me guess what's going to be top tier. I saw the raptor video, so I can make guesses from there. Raptors have to be on top, so I guess eagles, sure, secretary birds. Never heard of them before that video, but yeah, they have to be in top. Corvettes, I guess he talked about them in that video too, and I guess it makes sense. Crows, how smart they are and things. Crows, ravens. So I guess they have to be on top. I guess we'll see who else is on top and who is in bottom tier. I love reacting to this channel because I get surprised a lot of times. Some of the animals that I think is really good, then I realize they're barely average or even below average. So yeah, let's see how many of the birds are below average. Remember people, if you like my reaction, don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out the Rick Sunday. There's a link in the description with all my videos. Check out the cast over playlists like TierZoo. I've reacted to quite a few TierZoo videos already. So if you haven't seen my reactions to them, check out the playlist. It's all there. Check out the playlist too, like Oversimplified, Overly Sarcastic Production, Internet Historian, CGP Grey, History. And yeah, let's do this one. I don't know why that music is funny.
Birds are one of the most popular playable classes in the game, with a huge number of successful builds and tons of cool strategies.
Only dinosaurs left,
However,
I guess.
some of these strategies have clearly been more successful than others. So today we'll be going over the bird tier list to see which bird ranks highest. But before we get into looking at specific bird builds, let's do an overview of the basic attributes and special abilities the bird faction has access to, as well as a quick rundown of the history of the bird faction.
Peasant. I'm a royalty of
birds are one of the newer factions in the game, joining the game's roster during the latter part of the Mesozoic expansion. They began as an offshoot of the dinosaur faction that was specifically adapted to arboreal gameplay, but when the devs dropped the Cenozoic balance patch, these small avians were the only dinosaurs not to be hit by the banhammer. Fast forward to today's meta, and birds are one of the most successful factions in the game, owing this success to a handful.
Did that thing just, scared a bear? That just tells you that, animals' psychology is everything, isn't it? Just spread the wings, look bigger, so even bear gets scared.
Of powerful, unique abilities, in addition to the obvious flying attribute. First of which is their beak. Now, beaks were not an entirely new ability for the reptile player base, but birds went far deeper into the beak skill tree than most dinosaurs ever had, with many bird players opting for extremely specialized beaks to give them an edge in specific scenarios. However, even the basic beak offers plenty of advantages. While their lack of teeth does mean that they deal reduced damage with their bite attack, birds can be far more accurate with their pecking attacks, enabling them to hit weak points or secure grabs on smaller targets, such as the thin hurt box of a snake.
I love how that bird knows that that's a snake. It can just, immediately, I guess, pounce on me. So, after every strike, just start to go backwards a bit. Like, is it reacting? No, I'm going to attack it again then, I guess.
Beaks also offer moderate protection, potentially reducing headshot damage and nullifying imprecise counterattacks. Beaks also offer some of the best stab-type damage in the game, which, when used accurately, can deal massive damage on crit. Beaks are also excellent tools for dealing with parasites. In fact, they're so good that oftentimes other, less dexterous players will party up with bird support players in order to have a better matchup against parasites. Feathers are also a unique and powerful trait exclusive to birds that provides excellent cold protection without causing the user to become too over-encumbered to fly. Feathers also offer pretty substantial defense against crush-type attacks, which is especially important to birds because of their hollow bones trait. Hollow bones are another ability meant to synergize with the flying playstyle. Now, a common misconception is that bird bones are hollow in order to reduce equipment load, but actually they're hollow in order to let bird players fill them with air, which grants them a massive boost to their maximum stamina. Without this, it'd be extremely tough for a bird to fly for any significant period of time.
Oh yeah, okay, so they got filled with air, and I guess, that helps them steadily fly. Huh, I never thought of that. I thought it was just weight thing. Yeah, I guess that makes sense because, I always wonder, like, some of the birds just fly straight, just effortless, don't even flap their wings, I guess, because of that.
The trade-off, of course, is that a broken bone not only deals serious damage, but also potentially reduces the player's maximum stamina by a huge margin. So a bird player will need all of the blunt damage defense it can get. And speaking of blunt damage, the bird's lower bone density means the bird's own blunt force strikes, like wing attacks, also deal reduced damage. The top tier bird builds are the ones that can best capitalize on the strengths of their class while mitigating potential weaknesses.
What is that?
That about covers the basics, so let's get into the tier list.
Other birds
At
were
the bottom of
there.
the tier list, we have two flightless bird builds, both with essentially the same glaring weakness. These are the kiwi and kakapo. Kiwis are hilariously part of the same faction as ostriches, emus, and cassowaries. For some reason, they opted to give up the flight ability, but didn't use the extra available skill points to spec into gigantism like the rest of their squad did. The result is a build that can literally only exist on island servers where there is no active mammal player base, aka New Zealand. The kakapo is a flightless version of the parrot, and although parrots are undoubtedly excellent bird builds, the flightless weakness is too glaring to ignore. Due to invasive species like rats and cats establishing a presence on island servers, both of these flightless bird builds are seeing major declines in their player base, and I would not be surprised.
Oh, I love that. You see that even the poses and the way it paws. Even the leg is, a bit backwards, but just pause there. Just froze up.
Both of these flightless bird builds are seeing major declines in their player base, and I would not be surprised if they all ended up switching mains. Flight is just too strong an ability to pass up. Which brings me to the next builds on my tier list. So I see what these builds were going for. Being giant could potentially make up for the lack of flight, but in practice this didn't quite pan out. While these are technically the strongest birds in terms of base power and defensive stats, for their weight class they are woefully underpowered.
Seriously, I mean, if you're not going to fly, I guess there are way too many predators that can just F you up. I mean, bird that doesn't fly is very weak, I guess. Flying is the only escape.
They're one of the few megafauna builds that can be taken down by cheetahs, when they should be able to completely annihilate cheetahs with their powerful claws. Their huge weak point presents a lot of opportunity for counterattack too, so if they ever get too bold, they're setting themselves up for a tough loss.
Elephant, like, you do know who I am, right? My one leg weighs more than I guess 100 of you.
Lastly, the fact that they are forced to nest on the ground forces them into an even more vulnerable position than most birds, as ratite eggs are extremely valuable as loot. Objective defense is not an easy task even for high-tier builds, so for ostriches, emus, and cassowaries, this is a huge hurdle. Next on the tier list we have the Hummingbird. This build spec'd purely into mobility and just about nothing else, and as a result is the only bird build with full.
Because, the Hummingbird has to drink every few minutes or something. If it doesn't, it dies, right? I don't know, I heard that somewhere.
360-degree movement, similar to a dragonfly. This, combined with its extremely small size, enables the Hummingbird to very quickly change direction mid-flight, allowing it to easily dodge attacks and fly around obstacles. More importantly, it allows the Hummingbird to access nectar, which is an extremely valuable source of energy that's normally inaccessible to birds, since birds are usually too heavy to land on flowers and not agile enough to access nectar mid-flight. This all sounds great, but the Hummingbird also has two very serious weaknesses. The first is pretty obvious. They have no combat prowess at all, and any attack they fail to dodge will send them right back to the character select screen. But in addition to that, the insane energy cost of their flight ability, combined with their total lack of fat storage, means hummingbirds will run out of stamina very quickly if they can't constantly find food. To me, this is a high-risk, high-reward strategy where the risk far outweighs the reward, so I have to place them in F tier.
Yeah. Man, I'm not gonna lie, I never would have thought that ostrich would be F tier. Like I said, surprise. I always get surprised with these videos, but it makes sense. I mean, if you don't fly, there are so many different predators that can fuck you up. So, yeah.
At the bottom of D tier, we have the Pigeon. The Pigeon build doesn't really have any critical flaws, but they're held back by mediocre stats. In particular, the Pigeon is sorely lacking in any combat-focused stat, like power or defense. They do best in cities where their excellent navigation ability grants them an extra bit of safety by nesting among high-rises in loot-rich locations. But even in cities, Pigeon players tend to be the main source of XP for higher-tier predators. Plus, if you're just looking to play a bird build that's good at looting cities, there are better options available anyway.
All the other birds are flexing, I did this and I guess, I jumped this insect and I just got, best food of my life. They're like, yeah, I just went to the supermarket and just came out with a packet of chips.
The Peacock build is another generally understated build, with high HP but little else to rely on. It does, however, have one of the highest intimidation proficiency bonuses in the game, gaining a massive buff to all intimidation checks when its Eye Spot feather ability is activated.
Even to the humans.
As impressive as this ability is, the Peacock's actual attacks do very little damage, so any player able to resist being frightened will have a pretty easy win. The Peacock's diamatic display also blocks vision behind itself, making a stealth approach by a third-party attacker extremely easy. And while they can escape by flying, the feathers of a peacock...
Knowing Tiger and Tiger's claw strength, one swipe would have been enough to cut it into pieces, I guess.
Peacock are so heavy that getting airborne takes a bit longer than most birds, which can be the difference between dodging or dying when under attack.
Damn, that's
The
gruesome.
Flamingo is a bit of an AFK class. Very minimal skill is actually required to pilot this build. They opted to spec into the filter feeding ability, meaning all they really need to do to gain experience and progress their character is pick a random spot in the lake bed and start digging around with their beak, scoring free wins against things like snails and shrimp. However, when faced with a challenge from any player anywhere near its size, this build totally falls apart. They rely on water to impede the approach of predators in order to give them time to escape when
What about
attacked.
crocodiles?
However, this doesn't always work. Their pathetic defensive stats mean they go down in 1 or 2 hits, and their slow flight startup means that oftentimes players will have time to rush them down even when they're in the water. This is an easy build to rack up a bunch of experience with, but also a very easy build to defeat if you know their weaknesses. The humble chicken, often compared to the T-Rex to exemplify how far the dinosaur faction has fallen. While I
Oh, okay. Like T-Rex, but yeah, okay. Chickens has to be F tier. I mean, come on. Yeah, that is one of the most killed birds in the world, since humans constantly breed them and kill them in masses at ridiculous number, right? I guess that definitely makes them the worst bird to be.
disagree with the implication, I don't disagree that chickens are indeed a low-tier build. While they aren't anywhere near as totally helpless as the kiwi or kakapo, they're still a barely average statted bird that lacks the ability to fly for any extended distance. They can certainly hold their own against most similarly sized opponents, but with poor escape options and no unique abilities, this build faces a
I'm not gonna lie,
to fly for
this thing right here, this thing alone makes chickens better than most humans, I guess. Because most humans see a snake like that and they jump a wall. They suddenly become athletic, I guess. Jump 9 feet walls and things like that.
certainly hold their own against most similarly sized opponents, but with poor escape options and no unique abilities, this build faces an uphill battle against most opponents. Well, okay, I shouldn't say no unique abilities, but to be honest, their fast respawn rate kinda backfired on them due to humans using the factory farming strategy. Next in C tier we have the Vulture build, the tankiest variant of the Raptor subclass. A good tank build needs to be able to accomplish 2 things. The first is area denial, which Vultures do quite well. A few of them can easily lock down a carcass, one of the most contested points of interest you'll ever see on the map. They can do this because of their large size and acidic projectile attack. The other thing a tank must be good at is shrugging off hits, and this is where Vultures fall short. Their thick feathers easily shield them completely from smaller attacks, but because of their hollow bones, blunt fours can easily crush their defenses and take them down in only a hit or 2. So while they can defend a carcass from hordes of smaller scavengers, they don't have much counterplay towards bigger, more aggressive brawlers.
The command post is now under hostile control.
The Woodpecker build spent the bulk of their evolution points optimizing and perfecting the peck attack, both in power and efficiency, with one goal in mind: to be able to hit insect players through cover. Burrowing is one of the safest, most effective ways insect players can avoid combat. But the Woodpecker absolutely demolishes this strategy. One of the main advantages of this strategy is that having a powerful beak that's highly effective at drilling through wood also just means you've got a super sharp beak that's highly effective as a general purpose weapon.
Yeah.
One of the main disadvantages of
I mean, that is so true, isn't it? I mean, if it can just basically, pack up woods like that, I mean, it can pack at anything, any other animal. So the beak is pretty powerful weapon.
Strategy is that pecking at wood gives the woodpecker's location away, alerting more powerful predators to its presence, while it's in the middle of pecking and is distracted. One particular woodpecker build, the toucan, opted to spec into more bulk and an even more powerful beak, which, while less useful for attacking insects through the wood, is still extremely powerful for PvP. All in all, interesting strategy. By no means flawless, but definitely has some solid strengths.
Okay.
So I know I've been
I didn't know they were considered woodpeckers. Damn, I only saw them, in movies and shit, that cartoonist movies and things, yeah.
Hard on flightless birds up until now, so you might be surprised to see me rate penguins as upper mid-tier rather than low tier.
Oh yeah, right, penguins are also birds, right? Huh. I guess I didn't know that. I mean, I did know that, but I'd never think of them as birds.
The difference is, penguins actually swapped out their wings for an arguably equally viable alternative, flippers, which essentially allow them to fly through the water with incredible agility. This gives them a downright broken matchup against fish. However, this strategy is pretty much only viable on servers where there are no land-based predators that penguins would still need to worry about. So if for whatever reason a few polar bears ever spawn in the Antarctic server, it's kind of game over for that entire build. The predators they have to contend.
Holy shit, what if somebody does that? What if somebody drops, just to fuck with things, drops a few polar bear there? I mean, then we realize that penguins are getting massacred left and right. Oh god, that would be something, isn't it? I'm pretty sure penguins would go extinct very soon.
With in the water are even more dangerous, and while their agility does help them dodge attacks, ultimately it's still a totally one-sided matchup. Their strategy is pretty cool and actually fairly dominant due to limited competition, but I wouldn't be surprised to see the entire penguin player base collapse if the devs ever add new DLC in the form of an Antarctic land predator, or even if they just buff the land mobility of the leopard seal. Still, top of C tier is a respectable position for a flightless bird. At the bottom of B tier we have the Goose. I've got an entire video dedicated to the Goose build, but in short, the Goose has solid base stats, including above
Well, like I was saying about chicken, chicken was going one-on-one against snake, and if there was a human, humans would just run away. They would, I guess, soil their pants or something. In here, he talk about Goose and also shows videos about how, humans are basically running away from Goose. Humans are S tier, the top predator, but without their weapons, and most humans in the world is really weak, aren't they? I mean, Goose can basically make them run away. Any bird that might, pose a threat might make them run away. I mean, sure, as a whole collective species, humans are the S tier. But most humans would run away from things that even things like chickens don't run away. Chicken sees a snake and like, oh, you want to dance? And just go. And humans just runs away.
average hit points. However, its abysmal power stat leads it to rely heavily on intimidation to secure territory. This can be unbelievably effective at times,
oh, hell no.
and it's not uncommon to see top-tier predators flee an encounter that they easily could have won. Still, the
What? I didn't know Goose did that. Goose made a tiger run away. How is that possible? I mean, even if it flaps its wing, tiger is still pretty big than it. How is tiger like, okay, I could just punch this thing and it won't move. That's it. I guess one thing I'll learn about lions and tiger is if anything they can kill pretty easily, try to act wildly. In their head, I think it goes like, they should be scared, but they are not. That means there must be something that I'm thinking about them, I guess. They must be more powerful than I think they are. And I guess it's a psychological warfare, I guess. Because I've seen lots of videos of lions and tiger running away from things like this, goose and shit, just because they came, charging towards them. I guess in their mind, it's like, we are so powerful, everybody gets scared of us. And if something charges at us, I'm pretty sure that's badass. So we have to run away or something like that. Because this is just ridiculous. Goose just flap its wing. The tiger is still bigger, even with the wing flapping like that. Usually the psychology goes, if it, spreads its wing or whatever, it looks bigger than the whatever predator is. But in here, Predator is pretty big, or even, flapping the wing matters nothing, but still, Tiger ran away.
The obvious flaw in this strategy is that if the Goose's opponent resists being frightened, the Goose will be wide open to a punishing counter.
Horse is like, what the fuck? What? Get out of here! Just kicks it. Horse is like, do you know who we are? We are not some stupid tiger or lion or whatever. We don't get scared like that. You can just fool us like that.
In addition, the Goose's weak spot is easily exploitable by intelligent players, so careless aggression tends to be the Goose's biggest strength and biggest weakness at the same time. All in all, still a surprisingly effective strategy. The Heron build put a huge amount of evolution points into maxing out the puncture damage it can deal with its beak, and it did so to great success. Herons have one of the highest damage pecs.
And look at the length of this. And look at how it gets slimmer and slimmer and very, I guess, edgy or whatever. Of course, it would have higher damage, puncture damage.
Of any bird, and frequently one-hit their targets, even those with scale armor like large fish and juvenile crocodiles. The effectiveness of their piercing attack is amplified by their long neck, which gives their attacks a deceptively long range, giving their strikes an almost cobra-like flash to them. They have downright oppressive matchups against fish, amphibians, and all other small aquatic builds. One vulnerability they do have is that their flight ability has a lot of startup, making it a bit less reliable as an escape option if they do happen to get ambushed. Still, it's certainly not terrible. Another weakness is that their long neck presents a bit of a weak point, making lunging forward with repeated pecking attacks a bit risky if you get too predictable about it. Good players will be able to punish careless lunges quite hard.
That was so good, look at that.
Players will be able to
put it down and looking at it. Oh, what you gonna do next, huh? What you gonna do next?
Punish careless lunges
quite
hard. In high B tier, we have the Falcon, a raptor build that opts to defeat its opponents using speed and superior maneuvering rather than actual power. Falcons actually have a below average power stat for a raptor, and don't deal particularly high damage in close combat. Their talons are pretty small compared to hawks, owls, and eagles, and so instead of slashing and stabbing with their claws, falcons actually punch with their feet to disorient or concuss their target, and then finish the fight with their more...
falcons have really pretty fast diving abilities, right? They are very fast, and with that kind of attack, of course, they're gonna stun whatever the prey they are. I mean, they're still, I guess, they're falcons. Of course, they're gonna fuck up most birds, I guess.
Powerful beak. In the right situation, this can deal absolutely massive damage, enough to one-shot a mid-sized target at full HP. The drawback of this strategy is that falcons can only dish out high damage when they have the time to build up speed first. This makes the falcon a pretty poor defender for objective game modes, and means the falcon can struggle to win fights if its first attack doesn't connect, as follow-up attacks will likely not have the same force built up as the first. Still, the burst damage potential of this build cannot be ignored, so it earns its spot in high B tier. This might seem like an odd inclusion to cap off B tier, but songbirds are a highly efficient build for their size, and do deserve recognition on this tier list.
No way!
This is a huge group, including finches, starlings, sparrows...
I wouldn't have thought of the songbirds are going to be close to falcons.
...wrens, and birds of paradise. And while some are flashier than others, they all have relatively similar stats, with extremely high agility being their core stat. Unlike many of the builds lower on the tier list that have difficulty getting themselves airborne quickly, songbirds have extremely low startup on their flight move, allowing them to reposition themselves easily and quickly. This makes their approach very difficult to punish, making songbirds excellent at chipping away at defensive players, and makes them great at stealing loot from slower builds.
Yoink.
Their safety in numbers strategy can actually be somewhat intimidating and disorienting too, making it rather difficult to attack a party of songbirds mid-flight. While they certainly aren't invincible, having one...
If you would see that, and if I don't know, if there is some human walking around that doesn't have much knowledge about birds or anything, and I don't know, basically just woke up or something, just saw that in the sky coming close to him, even the human's like, oh shit, the apocalypse is here or something. Look at that shit.
Difficult to attack a party of songbirds mid-flight. While they certainly aren't invincible, having one of the lower HP stats among birds, they're an often overlooked but undoubtedly successful bird build. At the bottom of A tier we have the Swan. The Swan is essentially a goose that has the power stat to actually back up its attempts to intimidate. The wing attacks that most bird players use do very little damage and aren't very useful aside from pushing other players around. The Swan's wing attack can break bones and concuss foes. Because of this, Swans are one of the best builds at controlling important points of interest, as their hyper-aggressive playstyle can result in huge territory gains. Of course, they do have the same weaknesses as Geese, so targeting the Swan's neck with an attack can defuse the threat. But this is a bit riskier of a play against a Swan than against a Goose. All around, sturdy defender, definitely A tier. Next in A tier we have the Owl, the Avian faction's premier stealth assassin build. It owes this reputation
Why you had to play that music, man? That makes Owl feel very sinister.
to its special ability, which allows it to fly completely silently. This makes the Owl's strikes very difficult to defend against, as players just about never see them coming. While not as stacked in the power department as their daytime counterparts, Owls do have quite solid base stats. While they aren't likely to one-shot high HP targets, they do have enough force behind their attacks to be able to defend themselves and their territory, even from powerful enemies. In addition to granting the Owl the Silent Flight perk, the Owl's thick, bushy feathers offer additional defense against attacks, enabling it to stand its ground in important objective defense scenarios. Interestingly, the Silent Flight perk did come at the cost of the
Owl facing the cat like, yeah, okay, I'm not your everyday pigeon. Do you see this face? I'm gonna fuck you up, and just lunges at it.
waterproof ability that most bird feathers have, meaning that falling into the water or getting caught in a rainstorm can actually disable the Owl's flight ability. A pretty unique weakness, and certainly something that can be played.
Man, this music on the Owl fits so perfectly. It looks like a very vampirish. When the Owl is walking with the wings open, it feels like Owl is walking with a cloak or something, all vampirish style.
Around, but interesting nonetheless.
There you go.
In the middle of A tier we have the Eagles and Hawks. Hawks and Eagles follow the same basic strategy, both having tailored their builds to focus on dealing maximum damage with their talons. Hawks are the smaller variants of this group, and because of this they are far more agile. While not as powerful as Eagles, their agility enables them to weave through cover better than most birds of prey. This makes them well suited for rushing down players both in open terrain and in dense, difficult to navigate terrain like forests. Eagles, in contrast, are much more powerful, but their larger size and wider wingspan prevents them from entering dense forests. Still, in open prairies and mountains, eagles can be incredibly effective, dealing
This clips never gets old. An eagle just came and snatched the deer away like that. It's just ridiculous. Seeing a bird can do that.
absolutely brutal damage with their enormous dagger-like talons, enough to take down players in higher weight classes without even requiring team strategies. These are without a doubt some of the strongest bird builds in the game for PvP.
I'm not gonna lie, you know, this TierZoo obviously ranks things according to like power is not the only thing, mobility and everything has to match up. And whatever server they are in, does that even work? He sees everything to tier things, but to me, I don't know, a gigantic bird with massive power like eagle is just OP, alright? Of all the birds I see in the sky, if any birds that would feel threatening to me is eagle. If I see eagle, it's like, ah, fuck, that's an eagle. Because that's just, if it can just, you know, drag deer away like that, that's really powerful. That can do serious damage to any human.
And have been for quite some time. At the top of A tier, we have the grappler tank hybrid, the Pelican. The Pelican's main strength is its throat pouch. Grappling enemy players can be a highly effective takedown strategy, but birds struggle with this since they can't use their wings to grab, and since their beaks aren't always the most reliable grappling weapons, sometimes leading to targets escaping. The Pelican's grapple is, in contrast, almost totally inescapable, and works on targets much larger than you might think. While this attack style is most effective against fish, it's quite powerful against other bird, rodent, and amphibian players.
Wait a minute, this thing is kind of like, you know, like rubber type of thing that can stretch and get bigger? Damn. Wait a minute, what is that bird? Pigeon? Is that what it is with his big ass mouth? Is that the same bird? Because they have pretty big mouths, right?
Although it does have its limitations. This, combined with the Pelican's overall bulk, makes it one of the most difficult birds to take down in single combat, and enables it to stand its ground against even top tiers like canines. So those of you who follow the channel for a while can probably guess what the top tier birds are going to be. If you can't, that's probably a good indication that you should be subscribed. Those of you wishing the devs could unban the Velociraptor.
Obviously, that was, I said it, that's going to be in top because that was the top in the Raptor tier list. So of course it has to be top in this tier list. So yeah.
Build look no further than the Secretary Bird, as it has basically all the same awesome abilities and more. Hunting on foot and in pairs, they prove time and time again that striking from the sky is overrated. They can easily defeat other high-tier builds such as the Cobra and Mongoose
Black
with their
belt.
high-damage kicks. Their stomp move has extremely high accuracy, allowing Secretary Bird players to score game-ending headshots with ease. And they do all this without completely sacrificing their flight ability. If they ever find themselves outmatched, which only ever happens against builds in higher weight classes, they can still retreat to the sky or treetops.
That they're slowly creeping like that is like, yeah, I don't think so. Just walks back and slowly flies up. It's like, I have time. I have all the time in the world.
The fact that this strategy works in Africa, one of the most unforgiving servers of all time, is proof enough to me that this is the optimal Raptor. These last two builds are about equally matched, both opting for the same specialization, intelligence. Parrots are an extremely unique build with several powerful abilities, not the least of which is their sonic shriek, which can drive away just about any player who invaded their territory, especially when employed by a coordinated team. In addition, due to their
Yeah, but isn't that just psychological warfare? It doesn't do any damage, real damage. It just scares people away, right? I didn't know parrot was an actual threatening bird. I thought parrot is just, parrot is intelligent, sure, but is it a threatening bird? I never thought of that.
Prehensile beak, parrots have the highest dexterity of any bird, putting them among the best users of the tool use ability. And with an extremely high lifespan, if there was any build that could replace humans if humans ever get their intelligence nerfed, I'd bet on the parrot. I made an entire video on parrots if you're interested, but when it comes to intelligence, there's one avian build that arguably outclasses them.
There you go. Come on, man. Parrots cannot replace humans. They have to go through lots of evolution. I mean, proper hands and, I don't know, way higher intelligence, I guess. Yeah. Corvette, there you go. I also guess that because obviously everybody heard of the stories of crows and things, ravens. So yeah, they are smart, I guess.
Corvids, such as magpies, crows, and ravens, also opt for a high intelligence playstyle, but with a far more expansive social.
Yeah, about magpies, I heard from Top Gear, isn't there such a thing in UK, I guess, that you have to salute the magpie or something like that? What is that shit, man? I mean, isn't that dangerous? I mean, they talked about the same things, but as soon as I heard, like, okay, wait a minute, if you're going to salute a magpie just while driving, isn't that going to be dangerous?
Aspect to it. While plenty of bird builds use cooperative team strats, the best Corvids operate using a network effect, where knowledge is shared with a huge amount of players over vast distances. This knowledge can include useful points of interest, or even blacklists of dangerous areas or players to avoid.
You're kidding me.
But even individuals.
They share knowledge like that? What? So one crow shares whatever it learned about some place to another crow? I didn't know that. That is awesome.
Corvids have a lot going for them. With significantly higher stealth than parrots, corvids are much better at staying out of conflict. Their pointy beaks, while not as useful for tool use, are a much better combat tool for dealing quick damage. It's also more useful for pressuring and poking opponents, or for provoking larger players into battle, so that they can reap the benefits of the aftermath. Corvids are one of the.
You got to be kidding me.
It's also more.
Did that bird just provoke this cat to fight with that cat?
Useful for pressuring and poking opponents, or for
go ahead,
provoking
go
larger
fight.
players.
Look at them watching. Oh yeah, go. I bet on you, black one. Go.
Into battle, so that they can reap the benefits of the aftermath.
This is awesome.
Corvids are one of the best builds at making use of human-made items, and quickly figure out ways of abusing the system to score quick loot. All in all, Corvids are basically what you'd get if you gave monkeys wings. Easily a top-tier build. So there you have it, the complete bird tier list. Or rather, as complete as I thought possible for YouTube. If I didn't do a segment on your favorite bird, please let me know in the comments. Despite being the longest video I've ever made, there were still a few birds that I cut from the video for time's sake, or because I felt I couldn't discuss the bird properly without getting into territory that was
I mean, yeah, there's tons of birds. He can't talk about all of them. It would take hours.
Potentially too violent for YouTube. If you're interested in watching the full director's cut version of this video, it's available to watch on Nebula, a subscription streaming service built by and for creators. Nebula comes bundled for free with CuriosityStream, another awesome streaming service, and
yeah, people, go to curiositystream.com/TierZoo and support this channel. Yeah, this was biggest video I think he made. It was nearly half an hour, 24 minutes. So yeah, damn. I mean, obviously crows and ravens, we already heard the story about, you know, stones and water and whatever. So obviously they are smart, but that was just ridiculous what I just saw. That crow or whatever that was, Corvette, one of the Corvette birds, basically, you know, pecking at that cat. So, you know, cat would basically jump to the roof and fight to another cat, and actually happen. And cat like, oh, the body's like, oh yeah, this is awesome. Go fight. That was so good, man. The way it was watching too. Man, seriously, I get surprised how animals act sometimes. I mean, seeing their intelligence, it's just ridiculous. I mean, there are seriously, like, corvids are that intelligent, you know, orcas are that kind of intelligent, I guess. You know, some of the things orcas do surprise me as well. So this is just ridiculous. I love reacting to this channel. I never thought I would be this interested in any animal videos, but the more I react to this channel, the more I learn, and it's just awesome. Alright people, that was the bird tier list. If you like my reaction, don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out the reaction, there's a link in the description. Check out the cast playlist, check out the end cards, and I'll see you next time.